In 1983, in Amarillo, Texas, there was a nun named Sister, I'm going to mess this up too, Tadia, I believe, or Tadia Benz. She was 76 years old, and on Halloween, she was killed. There was a lot of other things done. We're not going to go into that, right? It was just horrible. What happened to her was horrible. And there was apparently an overwhelming amount of evidence left at the scene. And there was a witness in the area said that they had spotted a man hiding behind some trees, and that this man was very dark-skinned, and that he'd been around the Covenant at this time, but the police didn't really have any leads to go on. Well, of course, the people are going crazy. They can't believe an elderly nun, this happened to her, and what happened to her. So what do? Of course, again, this is 83. This is one of those deals. They start looking around the crime scene, and they find a man named Johnny Frank Garrett. Now, at the time, Johnny was 17 years old. He was mentally handicapped rather severely. And, of course, he had lashed out things. And they said, oh, he's violent. You don't really know. It's an easy thing to do one side or the other, right? To easily cast that speculation. We're not going to. All we know is he was a mentally handicapped young man. And the police, from pressure of the people in the town, decided this is the one. And this is what we're doing. And so they cuffed him and took him there to the station. And nobody really knows from that point on exactly how it went, other than it sounds to me, if you read on some of it and watch them, it's more like a railroading. They gave him a public defendant who was really not good at his job. And pretty much the defendant told Johnny and his family, you need to just give up. They have everything. They have everything they need, all the evidence. It's over, right? You're going to prison for the rest of your life if they don't kill you. Not wanting to look at anything other than maybe there's something else to it. This was just easy peasy. This is what they're doing. So the evidence that they had stacked, in air quotes, against Johnny, turns out was all fabricated. They put it all together. They brought it in, and they made him write a full confession. And in the full confession, nothing really lined up to the crime scene. Everything that he had tried to write to make it, whatever it was that he was trying to appease them to do, none of it added up. And the evidence that proved that none of it added up somehow vanished, right? They basically constructed this case. They brought Johnny to the courtroom. He was tried. He's convicted. And they sentenced him to death. Now, all of this, at the time, they said, was because of a very corrupt police department. And they said what made it so scary was how efficient they worked at being able to cover their tracks, to build this evidence, and to put him in, and that they knew that the way it had worked, the family had seen it, all this stuff. They know that the police department at the time had done it before. And of course, the legal system in Texas, you know how it is. We don't really give you a second chance. You mess up down here, we're going to kill you back. That's pretty much the way it goes. And there has been a lot of fault to that, admittedly. This is one of those things. So they put Johnny in jail, lock him up. He's on death row. 9 years. 9 years he's on death row. People are appealing his case right for him. They're like, come on, you can't. They try. At the end of this all, Johnny's last words, it says, I'd like to thank my family for loving me and taking care of me. And the rest of the world can kiss my ass, is what Johnny said. Now, years later, and I don't know how long, but years later, people start coming forward. Evidence starts surfacing that Garrett was 100% innocent. In fact, they found out that the person that had killed the Miss Nunn, I'm horrible at trying to pronounce her name, Tadia, Miss Benz, let's say Sister Benz. The person that had killed Sister Benz was a Cuban, I guess you could call him a refugee, and that he had actually had a criminal record and MO that fit exactly what had happened to Sister Benz. It had happened in Cuba. So, and here's what's even crazier. He was actually questioned by police and let go because they had set their sights on Johnny, right? So Johnny sits on there for almost 10 years. He's on death row, saying he's innocent, denied any of this stuff. Nobody, right? Everything. Everybody just wants to see him die. They think all this stuff. So the story goes that Johnny wrote a letter to the state and to the media and telling them how much of a turd they really were, basically telling them they were all frauds. And what's really interesting is he wrote a curse. He actually cursed them, not like, creepy Latin words, which I don't know why it's got to be Latin, but anyhow, he actually wrote a curse to these people, wrote it all out, saying, with all their names, he listed their names, and at the end he said, each and every one of you will get what you deserve. So we fast forward to Miss Novella Summer. She was a juror. She fell down a flight of stairs. Just randomly fell down a flight of stairs, killed her. A couple of days later, she's in a coma. She died from it. There was another juror, the last name is Shackelford, Nathan Shackelford. His daughter ends up getting killed by an accidental gunshot. And then his sister is killed by a drunk driver. And the trial lawyer for Johnny, whose name's Bill Collis, he died of cancer. Cancer got him. His first appeal lawyer was named Bruce Sadler. All right? And, get a load of this, his post-conviction trial judge was named Sam Kaiser. Both Bruce and Sam came down with leukemia. Yeah. Now, Kaiser ended up dying after being allegedly cured. Said his healthy bone marrow that was collecting all this stuff completely disappeared from the case. Get a load of that. They collected what could save him and lost it. Can't find it. Gone. Another person there that was on the case named Jimmy Boldston died from leukemia. One of the officers involved in the case named Walt Yerger died of leukemia. Yeah. There was a reporter that covered the case for NBC named Kathy Jones. Kathy died in an airplane crash. And then the medical examiner, Ralph Ederman, who of course was convicted of multiple felonies of falsifying autopsy reports. They took his license, he was sent to prison, and his wife died of pancreatic cancer. It doesn't stop there, folks. There was another officer, last name of Patterson, died in his vehicle. There was a jailhouse snitch who testified against Garrett with the last name of Watley. He ended up killing himself while in prison. Now, lowest of the blows, it feels like a school teacher named Carol Moore was Johnny's school teacher. She came up as a character witness and testified against him. She later committed suicide. The district attorney, Danny Hill, killed himself, and his daughter did also. And then one of many of the appeal lawyers that worked, I don't know if you could say was trying to help, but that worked for Johnny, named Jeff Blackburn, his wife committed suicide. And his son ended up dying from brain damage from being locked inside a hot car. Yeah, exactly. And then those of you that are in the know and remember some politics from Texas years and years ago, Miss Ann Richards, well, she was involved in this case too. And they believe that she helped cover it up, and it was one of the many that Ann may have been involved in. Well, if you don't remember, Ann Richards came down with cancer not once but twice, and the second time she struck out. She died from esophageal cancer. So, Jimmy had a lot to say and a lot on the list, and that list got thinned down. And it makes you wonder,